I convinced my brother to do a DNA test for fun, but the results say we're not related at all, and now I'm spiraling. Posted by you/Big Pensamientos. English isn't my first language, so I apologize for any mistakes. For context, I'm a 27-year-old woman, my brother is 20. We were born in Venezuela, but our parents are 100% Galician, Spanish, and we have lived in Spain for almost 18 years now. We moved when I was 9 and he was about 2. I took my test almost a year ago and was obsessed. I loved all the information it gave me. I persuaded my mom and my first cousin, my dad's brother's daughter, to also take it months ago. I wasn't able to convince my dad, but I finally managed to convince my brother to take it. He doesn't care about this kind of stuff much, so I promised I'd manage it for him, and when I got the results, I'd do a reveal for him, kind of like a gender reveal for babies. Well, I got the results on Tuesday and I haven't been able to tell anyone. I've talked with Ancestry customer support and they told me the results are correct and it is the right person, but they're looking into it anyway. Basically, my brother doesn't appear in my matches. And in my brother's matches, I don't show up, and neither does my mom, nor my cousin from my dad's side. In his matches, I only see people I've never heard of. None of my matches show up in his. His ethnicities are different too. My mom has 60% Portuguese, for example. I got 40% Portuguese, I think my dad has a bit too, which is why I got more than 30%. My brother doesn't have any Portuguese at all. Another super weird thing, he is 44% Indigenous Americas, Colombia and Venezuela. My mom doesn't have that. I don't have that. My cousin, dad's side, doesn't have that. Another thing, my brother has 12% South Italian. I don't have any Italian, and neither do my mom or cousin. I'm freaking out because it's not like my mom cheated, otherwise, at least he'd be my half-brother and related to my mom. He can't be adopted. I was 6 when my mom was pregnant with him. I remember all of it. I remember them telling me she was pregnant and that I'd have a baby brother. I remember hospital visits. Hell, I remember when he was born, when I held him for the first time in the hospital and he was so tiny. Could they have done an egg and sperm donation thing? Does that even happen in Venezuela in 2004? I am 100% sure I am biologically my parents' child, so I know they aren't infertile, or weren't when they conceived me. Could Ancestry have simply lied to me or gotten the wrong person? I am so confused. Has this happened to anyone before? I'm scared of asking him to try another DNA company because I don't want him to ask why. I'm scared of telling my parents in case I reveal some huge secret. But my mom seemed normal when she knew my brother took a test. I don't know what steps to take moving forward. Edit. I will address some comments here. He's never had bone marrow surgery. Many people have asked if my brother looks different from my parents and me. This is something I never questioned because I had no reason to, but my brother has darker skin than us. It is darker, but not enough to ever think he wasn't biologically related to us. His nose is certainly different, and so is his mouth. He is shorter than my dad and me, but taller than my mom. He is the shorter guy in our family, but I think he's still growing. Hair texture and color are very similar to all of us, curly and brown hair, though his hair is darker. Ours is much lighter. My dad is almost blonde, and I have very light brown hair too. His eyes are very dark brown. My dad has green, my mom light brown, and I have hazel. When it comes to personality, he is just like my dad. Nothing stands out about his personality in terms that would make me think he isn't biologically related. He is and will always be my brother. I don't care about DNA. He doesn't show up as a match for me at all. I search his name and he doesn't appear. Neither do I show up in his matches, and neither does my mom. There are no centimorgans shared. Someone asked how much centimorgans I have with my mom, and it's 3,481. With my paternal cousin, I share 901 centimorgans. My mom is 60% Portuguese, 33% Spanish, 5% Irish and 2% Welsh. I am 58% Spanish, 40% Portuguese, 1% Irish and 1% French. My dad hasn't taken a test. My brother is 44% Indigenous Venezuelan and Colombian, 36% Spanish, 12% South Italian, 4% Basque, and 4% North African. Edit 2. I would love to respond to everyone, but there are so many comments. I will address some things here. My brother did not prank me. I saw him spit in the tube, and I myself put the tube into its box and later personally placed it in the post box. The saliva in the tube that I sent was 100% his. A few have mentioned that it is weird we have such a big age gap and that possibly my mom stopped being as fertile by the time my brother was born. I was an accident that happened when both my parents were 19, so my mom was still pretty young when she had my brother. It is indeed possible that she wasn't fertile and used an egg donor, but if that happened, I'm sure it wasn't because of her age. As for the results not being my brother's and it being an ancestry mistake, many of you pointed out things that I hadn't thought about, like, if I got someone else's results, then that somebody would have gotten my brother's results. Therefore, I would have matched with him anyway. And I didn't, so nobody else got his results. The other thing is that if it was a random person's test, it really would be a crazy coincidence that the results are of a Venezuelan and not a random European or Asian. It's too much of a coincidence that it's Venezuelan DNA. The consensus seems to be baby swapping in the hospital or informal adoption because my mom's baby died. A few have suggested a fake pregnancy before an adoption, but I felt the baby kicks with my own hands and face, so that one isn't right. I don't know what it is. I have been mentally preparing myself all day. Tomorrow morning, I will call my mom and ask her directly if they had any help conceiving him and or if he's adopted. Those two would be the better options. If it's neither, well, let's just hope it's one of those options. Thank you all for your messages. It really means a lot. You're the only people who know that this is happening, and it was a nice feeling to let it out and have so much support. Many have asked for an update, so I will try to come back here if I get answers. Thank you again. Update 4 days later. A few days ago, I made a post here talking about how I got my brother's ancestry DNA results and found that he didn't match with me, my mom, or my paternal cousin, making it seem like he isn't biologically related to my family. As many of you, and Ancestry customer support, pointed out, it was unlikely that the test was wrong. It was much more likely that the test was right and that there was something else going on. Namely, that my brother really wasn't biologically my brother. I talked to my mom last Saturday. I'd planned to just call her on Friday, but I was really stressed out and nervous, hadn't slept at all, and needed to work. So I figured it made more sense to wait for the weekend. Plus, I wanted to talk to her face to face. I preferred this, and I think my mom would prefer this too, considering the topic I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry, those are all irrelevant details that I don't know why I'm explaining. Soon after I got to my parents' house, I got my dad to go buy me some stuff at the supermarket and used the time alone to ask my mom if she remembered, weeks earlier, when I got my brother to do the test. It had happened in their house, and my brother had struggled to spit, so it was memorable. She said that of course she remembered and asked me if I finally got the results. I told her that yes, I got them, but that the results were strange. She asked me what that meant. And then I directly asked her if my dad and she had used fertility help to have my brother. I guess something in my tone and face freaked her out because she suddenly got very serious and said something like, "No. Why are you asking that?" So I told her that the results showed that he wasn't her biological son. And he wasn't related to me, or my dad's niece, or anyone that she and I had matched with on Ancestry. And that it was very weird, but DNA can't be wrong. And I asked her if he really was theirs biologically, or if they used embryo donations, or if he was adopted. Basically, she was in disbelief about what I was saying, and she said the test must be wrong and of course my brother was hers. I showed her my brother's results, the ethnicity estimates, I opened my app and showed her my matches and compared, etc. She simply didn't believe any of it. She said that it was wrong. I reminded her that she and I matched. That she and I matched with some second and third cousins that we knew. That I matched with my paternal cousin. I told her that it is not wrong. That companies lie and they suck, but they're not lying about this. Matching people with DNA is very easy and final, and they have no reason to lie. I explained how I spent so much time talking with Ancestry support trying to figure out if there was a mistake, and they assured me there wasn't one. I explained to her also how my brother's results couldn't have gotten mixed up with someone else's, because what were the odds of getting a Venezuelan person's results and not just some random person from the US, since that's where most clients are. At this point, she was freaking out and shaking and confused, and I 100% believe her. She is being honest. My brother was conceived naturally and she gave birth to him. When my dad came back, I told him the same thing and asked the same questions. The same argument as before happened, except it was now the two of them. He said he is theirs and that the test is wrong. Anyway, my mom was angry and crying, and my dad was very serious, and I finally brought up the possibility of my brother being switched on accident by nurses at the hospital. I was the first to say it out loud, but obviously, everyone had been thinking it. They denied that they were given another baby. But they also didn't seem totally sure. My mom was shaking and my dad was mostly quiet. They said that he was taken to a room with a lot more newborns and always slept there. He was barely in my mom's room. My parents said they don't remember if there were any tags on him with his name or their names. They think there weren't tags on him. But there for sure were tags in the little baby's cribs in that room. But of course, if they put the wrong baby in the wrong crib, that was it. They said that basically, he was born, they cut the umbilical cord, kind of wiped all the stuff off of him, put him in my mom's arms, and then quickly took him away. The next time they saw him, he was much cleaner and softer, and they say he didn't have some sort of white film on him. He seemed like the same baby, but in my opinion, after seeing him for maybe 10 minutes at most right after birth with the crazy amount of hormones and adrenaline on both sides, would you really be able to recognize a newborn? I don't know. Anyway, that is the update. My parents assured me he was conceived naturally and that my mom gave birth to him. I believe this is the truth. They were way too shocked and emotional for it to be a lie. We bought a bunch of new tests, Ancestry for my dad and 23andMe for my parents and my brother. Also, my dad said he would investigate how to do paternity and maternity tests with a doctor. They will tell my brother today. They'll tell him, and then I'll give him access to the account I made for him on Ancestry so that he can freely look at his results and do what he pleases with his DNA. Well, like I said, that conversation with my parents happened on Saturday. Yesterday, on Sunday, I visited them again, and they seemed very disturbed and worried. So I am concerned about them and my brother, and I really hope that whatever the results are from the other DNA tests, nobody loses their minds. I think my parents will love my brother just the same. He is their son. But I know that if he isn't biologically theirs, it means that there is a person out there who is biologically their son. My parents will go crazy trying to find him if that's the case. And it's Venezuela. Feels impossible to find someone there. And he might not even be there, considering all the migration over the last few years. And what if he had a bad life? A bad family? I don't know. I'm so worried about this, so I can't even imagine how my parents feel. As for my brother, I think he will take it well. He's really strong, understanding, and smart, and he never cared about blood, he's always said as much. I think it will shock him and disturb him as well, but I don't think he'll go as crazy. If the results are negative, I'll make sure to be there for him if he needs me and be the best sister I can be. Anyway, I'm sorry about there not being much of an update. There's no new information. I wish there was. But not yet, I guess. Thank you for all your support in the last post. I hope you have a good day. Second update 6 months later. Hi everyone. I made some posts here 6 months ago. Basically, I convinced my brother to take a DNA test, and when the results came back, he didn't match with any of us, not with me, not with my mom, and not with my paternal cousin. I came here to ask your opinions after Ancestry customer support told me there had been no mistakes. Many of you have been DMing me for an update, so here I am. After that update I posted, we talked to my brother and told him the situation. He was understandably shocked and confused. My parents and he got some tests done at a local lab, paternity and maternity tests. They came out negative. My brother is not their biological son. It was difficult for everyone. It was news nobody expected. 6 months later, everyone is better. Obviously, feelings haven't changed. Family isn't only biological. Everyone is on the same page about that, so there are no issues in that regard. However, especially when it comes to my brother and my parents, there are now huge questions that no one seems to have answers to. What happened to the baby my mother gave birth to? What happened to my brother's biological parents? So yes, that's what's been happening over the last 6 months. In regard to my parents' baby, my biological brother, we have no clue. My mother gave birth in Venezuela, and my parents have tried everything when it comes to that. The hospital has no idea. They deny anything happened. They do not have any records of the babies born there. Apparently, they lost all documents 15 years ago, so everything before that is lost forever. We all suspect that's a lie. My parents are planning a trip to Venezuela later this year, and hopefully, they'll actually be able to go. If you follow the news, you'll know the politics there right now are a mess. They'll try to go to the hospital in person and figure it out. But there's not much hope there. The only good thing is that it was a private hospital, not public, so that kind of means that probably, if it was a baby switch situation, the baby left with a middle-class family. Most people in Venezuela are poor, so that other family potentially being middle-class narrows it down. But still, it's Caracas, which is huge, so yeah. In regard to my brother's parents, he's been in contact with a bunch of the people he matched with on his Ancestry test, and he's also done tests for a bunch of different companies. The issue is that none of them are particularly close matches. The closest match he has is 72 centimorgans, and it's a guy from Cuba who now lives in the US. So it doesn't really make sense for Venezuela either. Venezuelans don't take DNA tests, At least not while they're living there, and none of the people he's talked with have known anything. We are at a loss as to how to keep searching with him too. Most of his matches either live in the US or don't respond to him. And that is all. I'm sorry that this update doesn't really bring much to light. We still don't know. It's been a huge shock to the family. It's been difficult, especially for them. I hope one day my biological brother, if he's out there, takes a DNA test. Similarly, I hope my brother gets to find some family members, if only to know his health history. Thank you.